awesome. Okay. Well, as you started building your ministry, as you started building the book club, as you started building the magazine, did you have any sort of discouragement?
I did. Starting out, I felt that I wasn't getting the support with the local businesses because we were just starting out. They hadn't heard of us. They didn't know if it was going to work. And so the advertising dollars, and that, of course, that depends on how many magazines we can print. So that was really discouraging to know that a lot of these local businesses would rather advertise in the secular magazines. And not to say that's a negative thing, but when I go to the churches, and that's what Stick magazine stands for, that was a little discouraging to know that even the local churches sometimes fail to support us.
So how did you overcome that?
Just kept digging deeper and praying that the advertisers would come. And we did have to dig in our own pocket at times. But I just found that as the more that we sow into this ministry, the more God is going to bring more people to us to sow back into us.
Yes, and I do believe that. I do believe that whatever you sow, that is what you will definitely reap.
Yes.
And sometimes God has to bring things to us, in like going back again to the vision, in bits and pieces.
Oh, yes.
You know, He has to trust us with a little. Before the bigger amount can come. Definitely, definitely. So where do you see your book club going?
We would love to expand the book club. However, I tend to travel a little bit more with Stick magazine now. But I would love to see the Stick ministry just grow into other communities and just have other women to form their own Stick ministry book clubs.
Okay. Yeah, so you're encouraging women.
Yes.
All right. You're encouraging them to do what?
With the book club?
With your whole ministry? Because I'm assuming your ministry is the magazine and the book club.
It is. Just encouraging them to strive to do whatever their purpose is in life. Because sometimes life beats us up and we feel that we don't have the resources, we don't have the capability of doing what we feel that God has called us to do. But once you step out on faith, God will take care of the rest. So I just want to encourage them that if I can do this, they can do it. Because starting a magazine, it was a lot of work, but it's all worth it.
Okay. So what type of work did you do before this? Were you in media before?
I actually have worked for another magazine as well as another local newspaper. But my background really is in teaching. I taught school for 10 years before.
Okay. So you did have a little bit of background.
I did.
And so you were able to take that little bit of background and work your calling, really.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Work your calling, and then God, gave you the rest
He
that
did.
you needed.
Again, bits and pieces, because when I started with those magazines and newspapers, I never imagined I'd have my own magazine one day. I was just happy with doing the copy editing and the reporting for other people.
Okay, behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, yeah, that was me.
Okay, all right. Well, what sort of advice would you give other women that would also like to get into print media, that would also, or who feels as though that God is also calling them to perhaps do a Christian magazine or a Christian newsletter or whatever it may be? What sort of advice would you give them?
My first piece of advice would be, of course, to just continue to pray and fast to make sure that the direction that they're going is the way God would have them to go. If it's a newsletter, and just say it's a local newsletter, make sure that they have a target audience. Know who they're targeting before they start the magazine or the newsletter, whatever it may be. Get their target audience in mind. So then the stories, they will know what type of stories should be in the magazine. They will know what type of information, whether they need recipes or whether they need things for teenagers, what age group they're really looking at. So that would be my first piece of advice.
Okay. So once again, I'm going to give you an example. So I'm a woman, and I know that I wanna be able to help people. I love helping people, and I want to be able to do that through writing. And I know that God has placed in my heart a desire to do a Christian magazine. Okay.
Right.
And so you're saying that I need to be able to find out who my target audience is. But what if I don't know who my target audience is? How do I find my target audience?
I would say maybe get feedback from family and friends. Okay. Sometimes they can be our worst critics, but at the same time, they can really push you into your destiny at times. So talk to them. If you were reading this magazine, maybe have some rough drafts. Put some things in it from whether you write the stories or you just pull things off the internet and put it together. And what do you think about this? And get feedback. Because before I went into print with the magazine, I actually had different formats and I showed it to different people to get feedback.
Okay.
to see what caught their attention. If you saw this sitting on the shelf, which one of these would you pick up, and why would you pick this one instead of that one? So get feedback from family and friends. That would help.
Okay, okay. All right, what other advice would you give?
And after they get the target audience, of course, and have gotten the feedback, go ahead and just get started. Because if you don't start, it has to be a starting point. And if you don't ever start, you can be planning for 10 years and it never comes to pass. So just go ahead and get it out there. The first couple of issues might be a flop, but at least you've started, you're getting that experience, and you're learning. You're learning through the process. So just start and let God do the rest.
And let Him do the rest.
Let Him do the rest.
Yes, because He will qualify you.
He will.
Right?
He will
qualify you, and He will give you, all the tools, and He will place people in your way to bring forth what He has for you.
Because we have definitely found it out with Stick Magazine. Some of the things when I started out, I didn't have the program to even lay the magazine out. So that was my first problem, thinking, wow, this program is $400 or $500, and wow, I really want to get this started. So I put the word out and started interviewing people, and I found someone who already has the program. So she came aboard with Stick Magazine. So you're right, when you say the resources will come, if you just put your foot forward and just step out on faith.
Okay, all right. Well, once again, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk some more with Stephanie.
Be free. Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad.
Charles!
Nice, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
So how did you first of all, were there any disappointments? And if they were, how did you overcome them?
Yes, there were disappointments, and I'm sure as long as I keep living, there will be more. But the only way that I found out that I can handle the disappointments was just to continue to pray, continue to pray, continue to call on the strong ones around me, my pastors, my leaders, those prayer warriors who I knew that were behind Stick and behind me as well. So that's how I overcame the objections and the hurt. A lot of times I had to go home and cry because it did hurt to know that this is what God has given me. And a lot of doors seemed to be closing in my face at the beginning. Again, the ones that we thought that would support, again, and the community just felt that we hadn't been around long enough for them to really sow their money into the ministry. So that was very discouraging to start out.
So how did you, besides just praying and going to God, were there, any other ways you overcame
We did.
that?
At times we had to look at the number of magazines we printed. So we had to make some changes, and we started out monthly, and when the money just wasn't there sometime for advertising, we decided to go bi-monthly. So right now we're every 2 months instead of every month. So we did have to make some changes based on the response we were getting financially. But we're just trusting and believing God that we will be able to go back to once a month, because I know this is needed. This is needed in the community.
Okay. Can you let the people know where they can find your magazine at?
Yes, if you check our website, again, that's www.sticmagazine.com. There will be a listing on our website of all the locations. Currently, we are from Freequave Arena all the way through Durham, North Carolina. So we're covering most of the triangle right now. So again, just check our website out, and it will give you a listing of all of our locations.
Awesome. Stephanie, you've got Stick Magazine, you've got a book club, you're doing all these great things. Do you have has women ever came up to you and say, oh my God, you're doing this? How are you doing this? How can I do this? And what do you tell them?
Yes, they actually do. I've just recently met a young lady who has an online magazine, wonderful, wonderful magazine in the Triangle. And that was her exact question. How do you do it? How do I get into print? How do you get the word out? How do you get your support? So we actually are supposed to be meeting soon to sit down and go over all the behind the scenes work. But really the main thing I told her to do is go ahead and contact the printer, find out how many magazines she would like to have printed, because a lot of people think it's just really difficult, so they can never do this on their own. Well, this vision was came to pass with just me and my husband working behind the scenes to get this off the ground. So you don't need 100 people behind you to get a magazine off the ground.
Okay.
All you need is that encouragement and that faith to believe that it can happen.
So what are the steps? What are the steps for someone that wants to take their magazine or wants to have a print magazine? What are the steps for them from taking it from out of their head to an actual book?
First step is sit down. You got to have your computer. Go ahead and type, get your layout done, get your pages formatted the way you would have them.
Will they go through Word, like Windows?
Honestly, someone else lays the magazine out for me currently, but I know she does have a layout, and I think she uses Adobe.
Okay, so they would have to have a
Certain program
that does
to
that.
lay it
Okay.
out. And once you get that program, you just lay it out and you format it how you would like it.
Okay.
And we never even have to go to the printer. She emails it to him when it's complete and it's printed. We drive to pick it up and distribute them.
Okay, so the first thing they need to do is basically have a program, such as
correct.
Adobe.
Right.
And if they cannot afford Adobe, then I'm assuming they can just do it the regular, everyday way as Windows Word.
I'm sure there are some companies that could work around that, but
Okay.
again, that just depends on which publisher they're using, which printer they're using. If it's someone local, that they can go in and tell them this is the program I have, and there should be ways that they can help them. So that's the first thing, to speak to the printer who's actually printing them up.
Okay. So you've got the program, and then so what would be the next step?
The stories, the information that you're going to put inside of it. So I don't know if they're not a writer, you would contact different freelance writers, someone who is an artist maybe to help with the graphic part of it. And once all of that is put together how they would like it, again, it's not too many more steps. As long as you have your printer, the program you need, and the money to go pick the magazines up when they're printed.
Okay, so, and you keep saying the printer, so how would they find a printer, and what would a printer look like to someone that doesn't really know anything about starting a magazine?
Just where you normally go and get your copies made. You can
Okay.
check your
Office
local
Max,
places
Office
like
Depot.
Kinko's, your local mom and pop copy places. That would be a good place to start and ask them. You can take a magazine. A lot of them locally might not do the glossy print, and just ask them, do you have your saddle stitch? That's what it's called when they just print them out and they have the staple on the side of them. So again, it depends on how they want the magazine to look, what type of format they're looking at. If they want it just folded like your newsletter,
Yes.
you could take that right to your local printer.
Okay.
I mean, like Kinko's or Staples, and print them out themselves.
Okay. Now, what made you decide to go from, instead of doing online, to actually doing a print magazine?
Because I'm just one who likes to feel and touch. So I felt like if I'm not going to go online to read it as much, then I can't really expect my readers to do that. Now, a lot of people, they do like it that way. But I'm just your old-fashioned type girl who I like to feel it and save it and read it a little bit later.
You know what, I am too. I don't mind going online to read. That's fine. But I love to have a book in my hand.
Oh, yes,
a
and just to
magazine, a book,
hold it and
whatever
flip
is.
those pages.
And I want to be able to highlight, and I want to be able to underscore, and I want to be able to do all that and bend the
Yes.
pages and all of that. So I love that. So that's,
yeah.
and so, yes, you will have people that still want to have a
Oh,
handheld
yes,
magazine.
they do.
That's nice. That's cool. I love that.
Thank you.
All right, Stephanie, so tell us about, how do you get the writers to come in and write for your magazine?
Wow, that is a great question. Actually, we are always soliciting writers. In every issue, we always have it in our letter from the founders. If you like to write, if you know someone who likes to write, please email me at stephanie@stickmagazine.com. Send me some sample writing, and if things that we approve of for like encouraging others, if it's positive, we will give them feedback, and if that issue is full, we will definitely tell them we will save this for a later issue. So we're always open for our extra writers, freelance writers.
Okay, so you hear that, viewers. Stick Magazine is looking for freelance writers, and you are more than welcome to send Stephanie your information. Again, her email address is?
Stephanie@stickmagazine.com.
All right, so all of you budding writers that's out there, that God has called you to touch the lives of others. Here is a window, here is a door, here's an opportunity for you. So please contact her. And I just want to say, Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. I truly enjoyed interviewing you and hearing your story and hearing just all of what you're doing. I love the fact that you have stepped out on faith.
Thank you.
And that you are walking the calling that God has placed on your life. And I love the fact that no matter the disappointments, the doubts,